We're on the first project called ice cream production. The first task tells us to create a one-to-many relationship between the customer number field of the customer's table and the buyer field on the orders table. It tells us join should return all customer records even if they have placed no orders, and it tells us to accept all other defaults. Let's go to begin by clicking Enable Content if you have that. And then what we want to do is select at the top Database Tools. And in the Relations group, we're going to go ahead and select Relationships. With this, we need to open up two of the tables. The first one is the Customers table, and the second one is the Orders table. And then we can close out of the screen. From here, what I'm going to do is click Customer's Number on the Customers table, and I'm going to go ahead and click and drag that until I hover over Buyer. And I'm going to let go, which brings up the Edit Relationships dialog box. From here, I want to go ahead and select Join Type. And then what I want to do is select number 2. Include all records from customers and only those records from orders where the join fields are equal. We're going to go ahead and click OK. And we're going to go ahead and select Create. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. This task tells us in the daily production table that we need to set the flavor ID field as the primary key. Let's go ahead and close out of this. And we'll open up Daily Production table. We'll change this to the design view. And then with the flavor ID field selected, I'm going to go ahead and select primary key. And notice that little key icon displayed there to the left. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 3 wants us to configure this database to open with the startup form named New Customers. And then it tells us do not close the database. Let's go ahead and close out of this. We're going to go to the File tab here at the top. We'll select Options. In the Access Options dialog box, we're going to go and click Current Database. And in the Display Form, we want to change this from None to New Customers, and we'll click OK. It tells us that we need to close and reopen the database for this to take effect. We'll click OK, and we will not do that per the instructions here. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 4 tells us to configure the database to auto compact when closed. And again, it tells us do not close the database. We'll go back to the File tab here at the top. We'll select Options. We're in the Current Database section, and what we want to do is select Compact on Close, and we'll click OK. This screen pops up again that tells us that we need to close and reopen the database. We'll click OK, and we'll ignore that. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 5 wants us to create a brand new table, and it gives us some fields that we need to go ahead and create and set. What I want to do is go to the Create tab here at the top. In the Tables group, I want to select Table. I'm going to go ahead and change this to Design View, and it's asking me to save this table. It tells us here in the instructions that we need to change the table name to Shipping with a capital S, so we'll go ahead and type that. We'll click OK. The first field name is going to be Tracking ID, so we'll go ahead and change that. It tells us to set the number type from Auto to Number, so we'll click this drop down here and select Number. It also tells us that this first field is going to be the primary key. We have that key icon here next to Tracking ID, so we're good with that. We'll go ahead and click here in the second field name. This one's going to be called Order. This is also going to be the number format. And our third field is going to be called Ship Date. So we'll go ahead and type that in. And this data type is going to be date and time. We'll go ahead and close out of this table. It's asking us, do we want to save our changes? We'll go ahead and select yes. And we'll click Mark Completed. Task 6 wants us to create a query named All Flavors that appends the records in the Holiday Flavors table to the Flavors table, and it tells us running the query is optional. To do that, what we want to do is go to the Create. We're going to go to the Queries group and select Query Design. In this dialog box, we want to select Holiday Flavors, and we'll close out of this. We want to go ahead and select the flavor ID and the flavor. We then want to go ahead and select Append. In the table name, we want to change this to Flavors, and we'll click OK. The Append to down here changed. We can close out of this. It's going to ask us, do you want to save this? The answer is yes. And we want to change this from Query 1 to All Flavors. We'll click OK. And we'll click Mark Completed. Task 7 wants us to add a field named Profit to the Flavor Margins query. And it's going to have us calculate the difference between wholesale price and cost per gallon. And then it tells us to save the query, and running the query is optional. What we want to do is go ahead and open up the flavor margins query. We'll change this view to design view. In this section here, what we want to do is type in profit, which is our field name. We'll do the colon. We'll do space. We're going to do an open bracket here. We're going to type in wholesale price. We'll close the bracket. We'll do subtraction. Start a brand new open bracket. And we'll type in cost per gallon. We'll go ahead and close this bracket. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to set the text. Some things to note that when I was typing these field names, I capitalized the W, the P, the C, P, and the G. I want to make sure that you spell and capitalize these correctly. We'll go ahead and close out of this. It's asking us, do we want to save this? We do. We'll select yes. And we'll click Mark Completed. We're on the second project called Marina Rentals. The first task asks us to go ahead and save this database to the GMetrix templates folder as a backup. First thing we want to do is go ahead and enable the content here, and then we're going to hit File, Save As. In this, we'll keep that Save Database As. We're going to go ahead and select Backup Database, and then we're going to click Save As. You'll want to map to your GMetrix templates folder, and then we'll go ahead and type the name below. We'll click Save, and we'll click Mark Completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and save the manufacturer's table as an Excel workbook in the GMetrix templates folder, and it tells us to name the workbook rental brands, and it also tells us to keep the formatting and layout. To do that, we want to go ahead and open the manufacturer's table. Then we're going to go to the external data tab here at the top, and in our exports group, we want to select Excel. In the file name section, we want to go ahead and click Browse. You'll want to map to your GMetrix templates folder. For the file name, it tells us to change it to rental brands, capital R, capital B, one word. We'll click Save here. And then it tells us that we want to keep the formatting and layout. So we'll go ahead and check this box that says Export Data with Formatting and Layout. And we'll click OK. We don't need to worry about saving the export steps. We'll click Close. And we'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 tells us to hide the manufacturer ID field and the inventory table. Let's go ahead and close out of this table here and open up the inventory table. And then what we want to do is just right click here on the manufacturer ID and select Hide Fields. And notice that disappeared. It's still there, it's just hidden. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to create a query that includes the fields manufacturer, type, and model. It tells us to sort all of these fields in ascending order. And it tells us the query should make a table named rental list. And then we should save this query as sort rentals. And we should also run the query. There's a lot in this step. Let's go ahead and close out of this. We'll go ahead and click Save. The first thing we want to do is go to the Create tab here at the top. And in the Queries group, we're going to go ahead and select Query Design. Go ahead and pull this up. We want to go ahead and select both tables here. I'm just double clicking on both the titles. And I'm going to close out of this. It tells us that we need to include the manufacturer field. So we'll go ahead and double click there. And then it tells us that we also need the type and the model. Each of these sorts is going to be ascending. So I'm going to click here in the sort and select ascending for all 3 fields. We need to select Make a Table here. It tells us that this table is going to be called Rental List, capital R, capital L. We'll click OK here. It tells us to save the query as Sort Rentals. So we'll go ahead and right click here and click Save. Go ahead and type in Sort Rentals. Click OK. And it tells us that we need to run this query. So we'll go ahead and select that, Run. It tells us that we are about to paste 23 rows into a new table. That's fine. We'll click Yes. And we'll close out of this. And we'll click Mark Completed. Task 5 tells us to create a form named Available Rentals that displays the manufacturer from the manufacturer's table, and a database subform named Equipment that displays the type, model, and size from the inventory table for each brand equipment. There's a lot to do in this step. What we want to do is go to the Create tab here at the top, and in the Forms, we want to select Form Wizard. The first thing we want to do is go to the manufacturer's table, and we want to select Manufacturer here, and bring that over into the selected fields. The next thing we want to do is go back to the inventory because we need to bring in the type, model, and size here. So we'll go ahead and just click this. and then we'll go ahead and click next. In this section, we want to have the form with subforms. We'll click next. It tells us that we want our subform to be a data sheet, so we'll click next. And then it tells us that we want to change the form name to available rentals, so we'll go ahead and type that here. It also tells us that our subform needs to be called equipment. We'll go ahead and click finish, and we'll click mark completed. We're on the third project called Sport Club. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and delete the sponsors table. Before we do that, let's go ahead and click enable content if that is up. And then what we'll do is we'll select sponsors, right click on it, and select delete. We'll go ahead and click mark completed for that. Task 2 tells us that in the registration table, we need to replace each instance of the word football with soccer. Let's go ahead and open up that table. And what we want to do here is in the find group, click replace. And in the find what, I'm going to go ahead and type in football. And replace with, I'm going to go ahead and type soccer. We want to change the current field to current document. And then what we want to do is select replace all. And then we can close out of this. We can click mark completed. Task 3 tells us to alphabetize the last name column of the members table. And then we also want to sort the active members before the non-active members. To do that, let's go ahead and close out of this table and open up the members table. We'll select the last name field. We'll right click on it and select sort A to Z. And then what we want to do in the active field is right click on that and select sort selected to cleared. And now we have met that criteria. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. Task 4 wants us to apply the phone number mask to the telephone field on the members table and tells us to accept all of their defaults. What we want to do is go to the views group and change it to design view. We'll select telephone here, and we're going to go ahead and go to this section called input mask. And then all the way over here, there's a button with 3 dots that we want to select. It tells us that we must save our table first. We'll go ahead and select yes. In this section, we just want to have phone number selected, and we can click finish. And notice it went ahead and put that mask in for us. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. Task 5 tells us that we need to create a query named fees paid by members. And this is going to display the total registration fees paid by each club member to participate in the different sports. It tells us each member from the registration table should be listed as a record, and each sport should be listed as a field. And then it tells us the query should summarize the total amount of registrations paid. And then it tells us also to view the query. Let's go ahead and close out of our members table. We want to go to the Create tab here at the top. And what we want to select here is Query Wizard. In the query selection, we want to select Cross tab. We'll click OK. We want to select Table Registration. We want to view this in Tables. We'll click Next. And then what we want to have in the selected field is our member. So we'll click that over and notice over here, it's going to list them just like it asks us to do here where it says each member of the registration table should be listed as a record. We'll go ahead and click next. On this screen, what we want to do is select sport so that it will list the sports as the different fields. Click next. And then in this section for our function, what we want to do is select registration paid. And then we want to click sum here. And it will start to add up the members for each sport. We'll click next. It asks us if we want to name our query. We do. We'll go ahead and type in fees paid by members. Make sure you capitalize the different words here. And then it asks, do we want to view the query? And the answer is yes. So we'll go ahead and click finish. And it went ahead and displayed that information for us. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. We're in the fourth project called Tree Nursery. Task 1 wants us to import the first quarter summary table from the nursery sales database located in our GMetrix templates folder. And it tells us that we need to save our import steps with the file name first quarter sales import. To begin, let's go ahead and click this enable content. And then what we want to do is go to the external data tab here at the top. We're in the import and link. We want to click the new data source dropdown box. We're going to look from database and we're going to select access. We'll go ahead and click browse here to map to our GMetrix templates folder. The file that we're looking for is called nursery sales. So we'll go ahead and select that. We want to go ahead and import the tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and modules into this current database. So we'll go ahead and click OK. In this import objects dialog box, it tells us that we want to import the first quarter summary. So we'll select that from the tables. And then it's asking, do we want to import our steps? We'll go ahead and check this box so that we can import it, and we'll go ahead and type in the file name found in the instructions. We'll click Save Import, and we'll click Mark Completed. Task 2 wants us to rename our clients tables to customers. To do that, what we want to do is just right-click here on Clients. We're going to select Rename, and we'll type in Customers. Go ahead and hit Enter to set our text, and we'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 wants us to filter the inventory table to show only the trees that are in the 3 to 4 foot size. Let's go ahead and open up our inventory table. In the size field, we want to go ahead and click this filter button. We'll go ahead and uncheck select all, and then just check 3 to 4 foot. We'll click OK, and then we'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 4 wants us to change the format of the order date on the orders table to a short date. We'll go ahead and close out of this, and we'll click Save. And then we're going to open up our orders table. We'll switch the table view to design view. And our order date, we want to change this from short text to date time. In our format section here, we want to change this to short date. We'll go ahead and select that. We'll hit the X button to close our table. We'll select yes to save it. We'll click Mark Completed. We're in the 5th project called Landscaping Business. Task 1 wants us to add the phone number field to the customer's contacts query, and then it says running the query is optional. Let's go ahead and click the Enable Content that's in your view right now. Open up the customer contacts. We'll go ahead and change the view to design view in this section here. Let me go ahead and pull this down. We want to add phone number. You can double click or click and drag to this section. It's up to you. And now that we've done that, we can close out of this. And we can click Mark Completed. Task 2 wants us to change the format of the April tree sale query to remove all values to the right of the decimal point. It tells us running this query is optional. Let's go ahead and open up the April tree sale query. I double clicked. You can right click here and select design view, or you can change the view from over here. The first thing we want to do is we'll highlight this April column, which has the sum. And then what we want to do is on our Query Tools Design tab, we want to go to the Show Hide group, and we want to select Property Sheet. And then over here to the right in our Property Sheet, we want to change decimal places to 0. And then we want to go ahead and select this column here, Total of April, which also has the sum going on. In the Property Sheet, change it from 2 decimal places to 0. We can close out of this, and we can close out of this. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 3 wants us to modify the results of our customer's contacts query to display only customers living in the zip code 95504 and 95505. Let's go ahead and open up our customer's contacts query. In this section up here at the top, we want to click the filter for zip code. We'll go ahead and uncheck select all. And what we want to do here is select 95504 and 95505. We'll click OK. And notice it only displays those zip codes. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. And we'll move on to Task 4. This task wants us to use the wizard to create a report with data from the customers and orders tables. Our report should display the customer name, tree size, quantity ordered. And then we're going to group the report by tree. And then it tells us to sort the size in ascending order. And then it tells us to name the report. We want to go to the Create tab here at the top. In the Reports group, we want to go ahead and click Report Wizard. We want to change this to our customers, and we're going to select name for the field. And then we're going to change this to orders, and we're going to be specific in our ordering because we're going to select tree, then size, and then quantity. We'll click next. On this screen, we'll go ahead and click next. And then it asks us, do we want to have any grouping here? It tells us that we want to group the report by tree. So we'll select this right here. And notice tree is put right under name. We'll click next. For this section, it's asking us how we want to sort our fields. It tells us that we want to sort the size in ascending order, so we'll keep that. We're fine with this layout. And what title do we want to give the report? It tells us it's this right here. So we'll go ahead and type that in. Go ahead and click finish. And we'll close out everything. Click mark completed. We're on the 6th project called Country Feed Store. Task 1 tells us to modify the loading ticket form to display item number, description, and size from the feed table. It tells us to put it beneath a quantity field on the form. We're told to arrange each of these fields using the stack table and stretch across top positioning. And then it tells us to save our changes. The first thing we want to do is to enable content if that's visible on your screen. And then we're going to go ahead and open up our loading ticket. We'll right click on it, select design view. On the form design tools design tab, we want to go to the tools section and we want to go ahead and click add existing fields. We want to click show all tables. And what we want to look is for the feed. We want to make sure that that's opened up for us. And the first field we're going to add is the item number. So we'll click and what we're going to do is drag that over. From here, we're going to go to the arrange tab. In the table group, we're going to select stacked. And in the position under anchoring dropdown, we're going to select stretch across top. And we're going to do the same for description and size. We'll go ahead and right click, select save, and we'll close out of this form. We'll click mark completed. Task 2 tells us to modify the button label on the loading ticket form to read print loading ticket. Let's go ahead and open up the loading ticket again, and we're going to do that in design view. In this section, what we'll do is replace the word form and add loading ticket. We'll click off of it, and what we'll do is we'll save this, and we'll close out of the form. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. Task 3 wants us to modify our feed order form to include a data sheet subform, and it tells us that the subform should include only the item number, description, size, and price fields from the feed table, and then it tells us to name the subform feed items. To do that, what we want to do is go ahead and right-click on feed order, open it in design view. We're on the form design tools design tab, and where we want to look here is in the controls section. We have a lot of options here. This can be kind of cumbersome to look through. I want to encourage you to be familiar with these icons. That way you're not digging through this on the exam. This is the control that we want. If you're not sure, make sure you hover. We'll go ahead and click it. And then we're just going to click right below date. In the subform wizard, what we're looking to do is bring in a table or a query. So we'll keep that. It tells us that our table is the feed table. And it says that the subform should include the item number, the description, the size, and we'll select price. We'll click next. Then we'll go ahead and change the form name to feed items. We'll click finish. And it tells us to save this. So we'll right click and click save. And we'll close out of this. We'll click mark completed. Task 4 wants us to apply the organic theme to the loading ticket form. Let's go ahead and open that in design view. We're on the form design tools design tab. We're in the themes group. And what we want to do is click the themes drop down. And we're looking for organic. If you're not sure, make sure you hover over the themes so that you select the correct one. And we'll click mark completed. Task 5 wants us to add the shortcut Alt plus P to the print form button in the feed order form. We'll close out of this first, and we'll open up the feed order in design view. What we want to do is double click in this button, put our cursor right before that P. And what we want to do is add the and symbol before print. I'll go ahead and click out of that. Notice that changed just slightly to where that P is underlined. We'll go ahead and save this form, and we'll close out of it. And we'll click mark completed. We're in the 7th project called Farmers Market Association. Task 1 wants us to group the records in the Farmers Market report by season, and then it's going to have a sort by location. The first thing we'll do is we'll click enable content if that's up on your screen. And then what we want to do is right click on Farmers Market and open it in design view. At the bottom, in the group sort and total, we're going to click add a group, and we're going to go ahead and select season. And then underneath that, we're going to click add a sort, and we're going to select location. We're going to go ahead and right click, save on this tab at the top, and we'll close out of that. And we'll click mark completed. Task 2 tells us on the rental revenue report to change the farmer's market space rental label to say booth rental. So we'll go ahead and open up the rental revenue in design view. And in the page header section, we'll go ahead and we'll select this text here and change it to say booth. And we'll click out of that and we'll right click and click save. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. Task 3 tells us to modify the position controls of the North Park, Valley Park, and West Lake fields in the detail section of the rental revenue report to narrow. What we want to do for this is in the detail section, select North Park. And what I'm going to do is hold the control key on my keyboard and click Valley Park and Westlake. And notice that orange bounding box around all three. From here, we want to go to the report's design tools arrange. In our position group, we want to select control margins and select narrow. Tells us to save this, so we'll go ahead and right click here on the tab and click save, and we'll click mark completed. Task 4 wants us to modify the font colors of the headers North Park, Valley Park, and Westlake on our rental revenue report to the standard blue color, and then it tells us to save the report. For this, we want to go to the page header section. We want to select North Park, and I'm holding the control key on my keyboard again, and I'm selecting Valley Park and Westlake. With those selected, we want to go to the Design tab on the Report Design Tools. We're going to select Property Sheet. We'll click Format. And then what we're looking for is forecolor. We'll click here and then select the dots. And then what we want is in the standard colors. We're going to select blue. We'll save this again and we'll close out of it. We'll click Mark Completed.